2D shooters like Mohun and Magic Bubble World are fun and super easy to create. Today you will make your own 2D shooter in 3 steps. 1. Set up the scene. 2. Spawn some fish. And 3. Catch the fish. First open Xcode and create a new project. Then select Game Template and click Next. Choose a product name, for example Clicky Fishy. And then set the organization identifier to your country code and any name you like. The precise name is only relevant once you want to publish the game. Make sure that the language is set to Swift and game technology to SpriteKit. Lastly, select only iOS application and untick watchOS, tvOS and macOS application as we only want to create an iPhone game. Click Next. Finally, choose a folder for your project and click Create. Your project is now ready to go. Run it by clicking on the play button. As you can see, the scene is not entirely empty, but shows a Hello World text and some twirl effects. Time to get rid of them. In the navigator area on the left, select Game Scene. This opens the source code file. For now, you can close the debug area and the utilities area as you don't need them. Time to clean up the code. Delete the variables at the top and remove everything from the setup scene method. Delete scene.load as it only is required for watchOS. Also remove update and make spinny. Finally, delete the whole game scene extension. This is what your game scene class should look like now. When you start the game, you will only see the Hello World label, the twirls are gone. Finally, time to add the actual game content. Close the simulator and open Assets in the navigator. Download the resources from the video description and open them in Finder. Select all of them and just drag and drop them into your assets file. Have a short look. Those are some nice sprites from fish that you can find on KennyNL. They also have other nice game resources. Open the game SCN file and add the background. For this, click on the plus icon, select the media library and drag and drop the background into the scene. Set its position to 0, 0, so it is in the middle of the screen, and set the set position to -5. Now the background is behind the label. The smaller the set position, the farther back things are drawn on screen. With that done, you can now edit the label. Select it and then set the color to steel. Of course, you can pick any color you like. Next, set the font to condensed black so it's much bolder and set the size to 48. Finally, set the alignments to horizontal right and top and the position to 620 and 268 and set the text to score 0. Set the set position to 5 so that the label is always drawn in front. Duplicate the label and name one score label and the other timer label. Pick the timer label and position it in the top left corner. Set its title to time 60. Also select the scene and set its size to that of the background image. Click Run to see what you have done so far. The background image looks nice, but the labels are cut off. The reason for this is the different resolutions for different devices. We can fix this in code. Create 2 variables, one for the score label and one for the timer label. You want to place the timer label in the top left corner. The origin of the UI view is in the top left corner, so the position can be 2020. However, you need to transform that position to SpriteKit coordinates. You can do that with convert point from view. Once you have the coordinate, you need to get a reference to the timer label. You can do that using the method child node with name. As name, obviously use timer label and try to cast it to SK label node. Finally, set the position of the label. Next, you want to position the score label in the top right corner. For this, you at first need a reference to the view. You get this using a guard statement. It is a safety measure to ensure that the rest of the code is only executed when the scene has a valid view to work with. Once you have a reference to the view, you can use its bounce maxx property in order to get the width of the screen. Now you can set the position of the score label just in the same way you did for the timer label. Start the simulator, and now everything is in its correct place. Finally, time for step 2, spawning fish. Create a method spawnFishes, which will continuously spawn fish at regular intervals. The method contains a repeat forever action that repeatedly executes the following 2 actions. First, the run action, which calls the method spawnFish, and second, the wait action, which waits for a specific duration, in our example 0.5 seconds, with a specific range. The range makes sure that fish are not always called at precisely the same interval, but that there is actually some variation. The compiler now tells you that there is no method spawnFish, so you create that. The spawnFish method is responsible for creating one single fish. In the method, create a sprite node with the selected image and set its name to fish. Then use bool random to decide whether the fish should move from left to right or from right to left. Next, select a random Y position within the area of the scene. As the origin of the scene is in the middle of your screen, you also need to remember to subtract the size height. Furthermore, the anchor point of the fish is also in its middle, so add half of the fish height. The X position of your fish depends on whether it moves from left to right or from right to left. You can use the scene size and the fish size in order to calculate the position so that it's just off the screen. An X scale of -1 will flip the image along its Y-axis. Set the Z position so that the fish is always in front of the background but behind the labels. Then add the fish to the scene. Use the distance across the screen and the speed in order to calculate the duration it takes for the fish to get from one side to the other. Assign a direction factor based on the value it moves left to right. With all that information, you can now construct a move by action that moves the fish across the screen. Next, assign a remove action, then call run with a sequence of the move action and the remove action. Now the fish moves from left to right or from right to left and vanishes at the end. For a fish to actually spawn, call spawnFishes in that move. Now run the scene and enjoy the show. Still a bit boring, right? Let's make it more fun by adding different types of fish. Luckily, different images are already in your assets project and conveniently named fish 0 to fish 3. This allows you to just create a random integer variable and then use this value to create the fish name. Now you have many different fish in your sea. Time to catch them all. Implement the touchesBegan method at the bottom of your class. SpriteKit calls that method every time the user taps on the screen. At the top of the method, get the location of the first touch. Use the method atPoint with the location in order to find out which node the user has just tapped. If the name of the node is fish, then remove it from the scene. Add a variable to the class in order to track the score. Now in touchesBegan, you can increase the score and set the score label text. Congratulations, you have now a fully functioning 2D shooter. Now have fun with it. Add music and sound effects. Add different movement patterns to your fish. Implement the timer and show a high score when the time runs out. You probably can come up with a lot more great ideas. Let me know what they are in the comment section.